Hi guys, welcome to ENT Uplifter. I am Dr. Mehek, and in this presentation we'll be talking about anatomy of thyroid and parathyroid glands. Now this is an important topic but not very important topic for you guys, but it can come as a short essay. So we'll be covering this topic under following headings. First, we'll talk about development of parathyroid gland. So development of parathyroid gland is not at all important for you, but to understand the anatomy of parathyroid gland you need to understand the development of parathyroid gland. Then we'll be talking about development of thyroid. I'll be covering up in a separate presentation, most probably in thyroglossal cyst presentation, because a thyroglossal cyst is one of the anomaly of thyroid development. So after that I'll be talking about anatomy of thyroid. So anatomy of thyroid, in that first we'll talk about basic stuff of thyroid, then we'll talk about relations of thyroid gland, we'll talk about surfaces of thyroid lobe, surfaces of isthmus, borders, and those things we'll discuss. Then we'll be talking about anatomical variations of thyroid. Then we'll be talking about arterial supply of thyroid, venous supply of thyroid, lymphatic drainage. After that, we'll be talking about anatomy of parathyroid glands. So let's start this presentation. So moving on to the development of parathyroid gland. So parathyroid gland develops from third pharyngeal pouch and fourth pharyngeal pouch. So from third pharyngeal pouch, inferior parathyroid gland develops, and from fourth pharyngeal pouch, superior parathyroid gland develops. So now first let's talk about third pharyngeal pouch. So from third pharyngeal pouch, from the ventral part, thymus develops and that migrates to mediastinum, and from the dorsal part, so the dorsal part forms inferior parathyroid gland that becomes localized near the inferior poles in most of the cases. Now why I'm saying most of the cases, because sometimes inferior parathyroid gland may migrate along with the thyroid, along with the thymus. So the inferior parathyroid gland can have variable anatomical locations. From it can extend from the hyoid to the superior mediastinum. Okay, so compared to superior parathyroid gland, inferior parathyroid gland has more variable location because of this kind of development. Okay, now superior parathyroid gland develops from the fourth pharyngeal pouch. So the dorsal part forms superior parathyroid gland, and the ventral part forms something that is called as ultimobranchial. It is a chial bodies, ultimobranchial bodies, and they travel and migrate together till 44 days of development. After that, what happens? The spelling is wrong here also. It is ultimobranchial bodies, and they detach and fuse with the posterior part of thyroid, and then they differentiate into follicular cells. Now these are also the cells of thyroid gland, and they are called as C cells. So they secrete calcitonin, and these are the cells which are responsible for medullary carcinoma. So now, because these now if you see here, the dorsal part forms superior parathyroid gland and the ventral part forms ultimobranchial bodies, which is restricted to thyroid gland. That's why superior parathyroid gland does not have variable location. Now moving on to the thyroid anatomy. So this is the largest, like I told you, thyroid development we'll be discussing in a separate presentation along with the thyroglossal duct cyst. Okay, so thyroid anatomy, in thyroid anatomy, so thyroid is the largest endocrine organ in the body. It is more common in female, so it is more larger in females than males. It is bilobe structure with each lobe joined together by a narrow isthmus. It is highly vascular and reddish brown and weighs around 15 to 20 gram in adults. Each lobe is a pear-shaped lobe measuring approximately 5 into 3 into 1.5 centimeters. The apex of each lobe is narrow and it extends beneath the sternothyroid muscle up to its insertion in the oblique line of thyroid cartilage. So you should know that it extends beneath the sternothyroid muscle up to the insertion on its oblique line in thyroid cartilage. Now let me show you it in a picture. So it comes till the oblique line here. Okay, this is not a correct picture, it's much higher. This picture is drawn so that you can understand the anatomy of the arterial supply better. So okay, anyways, it is much higher till here. Now when you draw in your diagram, please make it a little bit up in your exams, and posteriorly it will cover the cricoid and the first and second tracheal ring. So yeah, so posterior medial aspect of the gland is attached to the side of cricoid cartilage and first and second tracheal rings by posterior suspensory ligament. So the ligament which is attaching the thyroid gland to the trachea is called as Berry's ligament. This is important, you should know that. And this firm attachment of the gland to the larynx is the cause of movement of thyroid gland during deglutition. Now, recurrent laryngeal nerve passes deep to Berry's ligament. So, during thyroidectomy, whenever we divide Berry's ligament, we have to be very, very careful. Now, so that we avoid damage to recurrent laryngeal nerve. Now, talking about thyroid is covered with the capsule. Now, there are two kinds of capsule there. First is true capsule, that is due to condensation of fibrous stroma of gland, and then we have false capsule, that is derived from pretracheal fascia of deep cervical fascia. Now moving on to the relations of thyroid lobe. So we have three surface in thyroid. First is anterolateral surface. So let's see that in this picture. First we have anterolateral surface, which is the superficial surface. Then we have deep surface, that is called as the medial surface, and then we have a posterior lateral surface here. So we have three surfaces and two border, that is anterior border, and similarly posteriorly we have posterior border. This is about the lobe. So we have three surfaces and two borders, and in isthmus we have two borders and two surfaces. So we have superior border here and inferior border, and we have anterior surface and posterior surface. Okay, so now let's see relationship of these surfaces. So first we'll talk about anterolateral surface or superficial surface. So that is covered by strap muscles, sternothyroid, sternohyoid, superior belly of omohyoid, and sternocleidomastoid. So that we can see here, it is covered by superior belly of sternohyoid, then we have sternothyroid, then we have superior belly of omohyoid, and then we have a part of sternocleidomastoid also, and then so that's it. Now the medial surface or the deep surface, we have larynx and trachea, pharynx and esophagus. Now imagine deeper to the deep surface of thyroid gland. So see, this is the deep surface. So we have two nerves here on the deeper surface, that is recurrent laryngeal nerve, external laryngeal nerve. Apart from that, we have larynx, trachea, pharynx and esophagus, and then we have two muscles, that is cricothyroid and inferior constrictors of pharynx. Okay, so and this is the cricothyroid muscle. So this is the deeper surface of thyroid gland. Now moving on to the posterior lateral surface, we have carotid sheath and ansa cervicalis in front of carotid sheath. So this is the posterior lateral surface and this is your carotid sheath here. Now yeah, so anterior border is related to anterior branch of superior thyroid artery. Like we can see here, this is the anterior surface and this is the your superior thyroid artery. Similarly, one branch of superior thyroid artery goes posteriorly, and it is related to the posterior surface also. So posterior surface has anastomosis of superior thyroid artery and inferior thyroid artery. Then you should know that the parathyroid gland, so we have four parathyroid glands in most of the times we have four parathyroid glands, and parathyroid glands are located on the posterior surface of the thyroid. Okay, it is present posteriorly. So posterior border is related to parathyroid gland, and on the left side we will also come across the thoracic duct at the lower part. Now, talking about the relations of isthmus, we have anterior border, that is superficial fascia and anterior jugular vein. And then we have, so this is about the isthmus. I told you there are two surfaces. Anterior surface has superficial fascia and anterior jugular vein, investing layer of deep cervical fascia and sternothyroid and sternohyoid. Posterior surface has second, third and fourth tracheal ring. Superior border has anastomosis between two superior thyroid artery, like we can see here. So here we'll have the anastomosis of superior thyroid artery, and then we have pyramidal lobe that is arising from isthmus and levator thyroid. This one is that, okay, levator of one second. Yeah, so we have levator of thyroid. So pyramidal lobe will form a levator of thyroid, and then we have inferior border, that has inferior thyroid vein and artery of thyroid ema. So this is the inferior border here, and there we will have inferior thyroid vein and the thyroid ema artery here. Okay. So that's about the surfaces and borders. Now talking about the anatomical variations of thyroid gland. So now talking, anatomical variation. So the right side of the lobe is larger than the left side of the lobe most of the time. And then we have this anatomical variation that is called as pyramidal lobe. Now it is so prevalent, the pyramidal lobe is so prevalent that it is considered as a normal variant. Okay. So it is called as a third conical protrusion, and it is present in 12 to 81% of cases. Okay, so it originates more commonly from the left side, but can also arise from midline of isthmus or right lateral lobe. Now, like I told you, it is so prevalent that it is considered as a normal variant. It represents the persistence of the distal part of embryonic thyroid and thyroglossal duct. This is important line, you should know that. And its apex may be replaced by fibrous or fibromuscular tissue that is called as levator of thyroid gland. And whenever we are doing thyroidectomy, we have to remove pyramidal lobe to avoid recurrence of the disease. So it should be removed with the main lobe to avoid leaving behind functioning thyroid tissue. Now there is one more variant that is called as tubercle of Zuckerkandl, and this is lateral or posterior projection of thyroid lobe. So this is your tubercle of Zuckerkandl here. Okay, these are your parathyroids, this is the thyroid gland, and this is your recurrent laryngeal nerve. So this is lateral and posterior protrusion of thyroid gland. It is thought to represent the point of embryonic fusion of ultimobranchial body and medial enlarge. Now, a median enlarge is basically the thing from which the thyroid forms, okay? And we have seen the role of ultimobranchial body in development of parathyroid. So it is considered to be the embryological fusion of ultimobranchial body and median enlarge. Now, the importance of this tubercle of Zuckerkandl, it is not important for you guys at UG level, but I will tell you, if you can, please remember this, that recurrent laryngeal nerve runs medial to it. So that is the applied aspect and surgical importance of this. And superior parathyroid gland is usually attached to the cranial aspect of tubercle of Zuckerkandl. Now, moving on to the arterial supply, first we'll talk about superior parathyroid artery, which is the branch of external carotid artery. Sorry, this is we are talking about superior thyroid artery. So this is your superior thyroid artery, which is a branch of external carotid artery, and it divides into posterior and anterior branch. So this is your anterior branches here, and the posterior branches go behind. Okay, so this is your superior thyroid artery. Then we have inferior thyroid artery, which is the branch of thyrocervical trunk, but in 15% of the cases it can directly arise from subclavian artery. So this is your inferior thyroid artery here. So like I told you, it arises from thyrocervical trunk, but it may arise in 15% of the cases. It can arise from subclavian artery. Then we have, this is your thyroid ima artery here. This is your thyroid ima artery, but this also this is not seen in all the cases. It is seen in 12% of the cases, and it is ascending in front of trachea to end in isthmus. It also arises from brachiocephalic artery, but it can originate from aorta, right common carotid, subclavian, and internal thoracic artery. Now, one more thing I forgot to tell you here. The inferior thyroid artery gives branches, divides into ascending and descending branches on the posterior border of the gland. Okay. Now, it has now the importance of inferior thyroid artery is it has variable relation to recurrent laryngeal nerve. We can ligate the artery whenever to preserve the recurrent laryngeal nerve. The inferior part of thyroid is the inferior thyroid artery is ligated away from the gland so that we don't injure recurrent laryngeal nerve, and it is a primary supply of parathyroid gland. This is important, so we have to save this artery to save parathyroid glands, to save the vascularity of parathyroid glands. And now thyroid artery we have already discussed. So if you can practice this diagram, please practice. It is very important diagram. Yeah, now talking about the venous drainage, so we have superior thyroid vein, which accompanies corresponding artery, and it drains into inferior jugular vein. Then we have, so here is your superior thyroid vein that drains into IJV. Then we have middle thyroid vein that also drains into IJV here. And then we have inferior thyroid vein that drains into brachiocephalic plexus. Okay. So that's about the venous drainage. Now talking about the lymphatic drainage, so the lateral aspect of the gland drains into third, fourth, and fifth lymph node, and the medial aspect drains into sixth and seventh cervical lymph nodes. Okay, so 1 and 2 are rarely involved. Okay, so that's about the lymphatic drainage of thyroid. Now moving on to the nerve supply. So the gland is under the influence of autonomic system as well as hormonal control. The sympathetic nerve fibers originate from superior cervical and stellate ganglion, and parasympathetic fibers are seen to originate from nodosa or local vagal ganglion. That is said by most of the studies. Now, talking about the parathyroid anatomy, so they are four in number. Most of the time, in 84% of the cases, they are four in numbers. Otherwise, they can be five in number, six in number, three in number. So that is not important for you guys. And superior parathyroid gland are less variable in location, that we discussed when we were discussing about development also. So around 85% of the superior parathyroid gland are within 2 centimeter diameter of a point 1 centimeter above the crossing of inferior thyroid artery and recurrent laryngeal nerve. So let's see that see this in picture. So this is the point where the inferior thyroid artery and recurrent laryngeal nerve crosses. So 1 centimeter above and within 2 centimeter of diameter, superior parathyroid gland can present. This is the superior parathyroid gland. We also call it as P4 because it develops from fourth pouch. Okay. So, but this is not important for you people. Just remember the location, that in 85%, most of the time superior parathyroid gland is within 2 centimeter diameter of a point 1 centimeter above the crossing of inferior thyroid artery and recurrent laryngeal nerve, and superior parathyroid gland is situated at the crossing of upper half of thyroid lobe at the cricothyroid junction. So that is also the landmark for that it is present in the upper lobe at the junction of cricoid and thyroid gland. Okay, so here, somewhere here. So now superior parathyroid gland. So migration so anatomical variation of superior parathyroid gland. So it can present anywhere in retropharyngeal, also in retrolaryngeal area, also retroesophageal area, also posterior mediastinum, retroesophageal or paraesophageal space. Now, inferior parathyroid gland tend to have more variable location due to migration with thymus. So it can, but generally it is located below inferior thyroid artery, but it can be present anywhere between hyoid bone superiorly to superior mediastinum. So generally it is located below the inferior thyroid artery. So when you take a cross section, you will see that if when you take a cut section like this, you will see that the parathyroid glands are mainly present in the posterior part, and inferior parathyroid glands are located more anteriorly. Okay, in cut section if you take. So now so that's about it. And yeah, now these are the points that 1 2 3 4 I have marked here. So this is not important for you, but still, so to make the topic interesting, this diagram is there. So these are the anatomical location of inferior parathyroid gland, that where all it can present. So it can present, one is it can present in carotid sheath also, or it can present, a second is intrathyroid, then third is the upper part of the thyroid cartilage. Fourth is the retropharyngeal area or retroesophageal area. There also inferior parathyroid gland can present. Then fifth is the superior pole of thyroid gland. Sixth is the paratracheal area here. Sixth is the paratracheal area, and seventh is the intrathymic area. Eighth is the iotopulmonary area, and ninth is the superior mediastinum area. But this is not important for you people. Just to make the topic interesting, I'm showing this diagram to you people. And now, talking about the arterial supply. So like I told you, parathyroids are mainly supplied by inferior thyroid artery, both superior and inferior parathyroid artery. But in some cases, the superior parathyroid gland in 20% or more may be vascularized solely by superior thyroid artery. But at your level, you should just remember that it is supplied by inferior thyroid artery. Venous drainage is superior and middle thyroid veins, and nerve supply is sympathetic fibers, that is cervical sympathetic ganglion. So that's all, guys, about this topic. This topic will help you to understand thyroidectomy also. And yeah, so just try to write in points everything. And thanks a lot. Bye bye.